So
Yes.
let's change gears a little bit. On Sunday, there was a Super Bowl, which the
Yes.
Kansas Chiefs won. And, um, but of course, that's only half the experience. The other half is they dropped a bunch of movie trailers. And there's
Yes.
two that we're going to take a look at because I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Uh, because the Transformers one, it's in the same continuity as Bumblebee, so that's probably going to be worth a watch. And Beast Wars was the Transformers I grew up on, so I liked Dinobot the best. I was a dinosaur kid. I'm still a dinosaur guy.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't really have a strong take on it. In Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we basically know that that movie is DOA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why waste the oxygen?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that movie. It's ugh.
I don't think that I would be even interested in a good Indiana Jones 5, truth be told.
I wouldn't either. It's just I yeah, to me Indiana Jones ended with The Last Crusade.
Yep, that's the proper way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's what I call it's the Star Wars psychological defense. Boy, it's weird that Disney bought Star Wars and never made any movies off of it except for that Rogue One. Oh well.
Yeah, and that one TV show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the two trailers, well, you already saw one of the trailers we're going to look at. This is The Flash, and um, go ahead and start playing it here.
So as is our wont, we don't watch it with audio because we don't want to attract the wrath of the gods.
Yes, and we'll be stopping it periodically so we don't get
Yep.
copyright. There's Batman.
So yeah, I honestly hadn't realized that Ben Affleck Batman was in this until I saw people pointing it out.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's
And there's Ezra, everyone's
um,
favorite.
they recast his dad.
Did they? Oh,
Yeah, God, what was his Billy Crudup played his dad in Justice League, and the guy playing his dad now, that's uh, the guy from Office Space,
hmm.
Peter Gibbons. Hey,
Oh,
Peter,
oh,
what's happening?
the main character.
Yeah, yeah.
I hadn't seen him in anything for a while, so I guess that explains where he went.
The only other thing I ever saw him in was Band of Brothers.
Oh, I've seen a few episodes of that. I didn't realize he was in there.
Yeah,
Uh, Here, as we are casually talking over Barry Allen's mother being
yep,
horribly sick and dying,
yeah, yeah.
or to be injured and dying, because the whole thing was that his dad was blamed.
Yeah, and it was, of course, well, I don't know how it is in this continuity, but it
It's
was.
almost certainly going to be Ezra Miller playing a Reverse Flash. It was me, Barry.
Jeez.
Remember that time you tried to have a Capri Sun and the straw bent instead of going through the little hole? That was me, Barry. I pre-bent the straw so that you look like an idiot in front of your crush on the playground.
Yeah. Yep. And there he is with
Oh
himself.
God! You know, it's hilarious to me that with all the controversy and everyone hating Ezra Miller, that of course this is where we get two Ezra Millers, possibly three if the rumors are to be believed, and he's playing Professor Zoom.
Yeah. You got the
Okay,
ring.
kind of cool that we got the flash ring.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
there's
And
Ben Affleck.
there's
I guess
Ben
I was
Affleck.
looking down during the party.
Yeah. He looks skinnier.
He's probably not hitting the bottle quite as hard, and he's been and not quite as horribly depressed because he's being jerked around by Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he's
Although
he, and he's back with J Lo.
I thought they were separated again.
I don't know. I can't
I
keep.
don't. They were in a Super Bowl commercial together, so that's
Yeah,
also. I have no idea when this was actually shot because there have been so many reshoots on this darn movie.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you got the Man of Steel.
Yeah, that was
There.
such a weird thing. Like this is one of those things where this movie was written on the assumption that the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman were going to be super well received. So of course, audiences will want to see something built off of that.
Yeah. Well, I will say you got Michael Shannon here back as Zod. I mean, that's
Yeah, that
I
that he was good as Odd.
yeah, I liked him as Zod. Uh,
4 out of 5 stars would kneel again.
yes. And of course, if you know anything about the Flashpoint story, he goes to get Superman, who's been locked away. But of course, we all know what happened with Superman in this universe. Now it's Supergirl.
Yeah.
And then, of course, okay, here's the Batcave, and drum roll, please. Da 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 da
Here's good.
da. Yeah, Michael Keaton Batman has returned.
At least we'll get to see him in one thing, even if they canceled the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah. He was supposed. They were supposed to do a bring him back, weren't they? We're like Batman
Well,
Beyond, I think.
well, there was talk of a Batman Beyond. I don't think that was too far along, and of course, he was going to be in Batgirl,
Right.
which got
And
completely erased from history.
yes. Um,
And he was originally going to be. So it's weird. He was going to be in Aquaman 2,
mhm.
and then they decided to cut out the references to this movie because they were going to try to keep the Snyderverse going with some of the original actors. They reshot his scenes with uh,
Um, Affleck. Yeah.
With Batfleck, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then apparently now that they're going the James Gunn route is like forget this nonsense.
Yeah.
We're just cutting all references to Batman out of this movie,
Yeah.
and we'll just shove it out there to die.
It will not. It will not surprise me if if he isn't front and center with a lot of the marketing on this movie.
Oh yeah, because like very few people really like his version of the Flash. People can tolerate his version of the Flash,
Yeah.
but
But
nobody
a lot of
really
people really
likes it.
still. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people really still. Yeah. People still really liked Michael Keaton's Batman. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what I grew up on.
I'm going to make a weird confession. I've somehow managed to see Batman 3 and 4 from those 90s movies, but I've never actually seen the first two.
Really.
Right. Well, like when they came out, I was too young and my parents wouldn't let me see it. And just one of those things you just never get around to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's Supergirl.
Whoa.
Uh, see, that looks terrible to me. I
Yeah, this is
that looked
after
awful.
all these reshoots, how do we have that?
I
This
don't
is
know. Yeah, and um, I will here's what. Oh yes, of course. Every why does every trailer have to end with a joke?
people like jokes, but I don't know, man.
I mean, it just yeah, but well, here's the other thing too. It gets me like the actress who plays Supergirl. Like I don't know if you've seen like just normal pictures of her.
I don't
Like
think I have.
she's actually an attractive young lady, and they made her look really ugly in this movie. Um, but I mean, but yeah, just I mean, yeah, the trailer looks okay in my opinion. There's some parts in there. Obviously, I mean, obviously Michael Keaton's Batman.
Right, that's a draw itself.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to get me to go see this movie.
No, that feels like how to put it. I feel like this is going to be one that'll probably get good numbers on HBO Max, and
Hmm.
there's going to be if they look at the analytics, it's weird. Like a lot of people seem to be skipping a lot of the movie and just going right to the first time Michael Keaton shows up.
Yeah.
Uh, I predicted that we would if we had access to the numbers, we would notice that
Yeah. Yeah.
because unfortunately they haven't made this Flash an interesting character.
No. No. He's and yeah. I find I didn't like him all that much in Justice League, and then and of course everything that's happened with Ezra Miller, I'm just like no.
No, yeah, no, both versions of Justice League he was kind of insufferable, and I think the moment that killed him was that whole stupid brunch joke. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so The reason that the shawarma thing in Avengers was kind of funny was because it was a. I think that's what a lot of people have tried to imitate since then,
Hmm.
including Marvel itself. The reason the shawarma thing in Avengers didn't work is that shawarma is a, or at least was until a billion people heard about it from that movie, a relatively obscure type of food.
Yes.
It's a relatively obscure type of food, and the context of the conversation was that them in the middle of a harrowing situation doing gallows humor about what they'll do after they get out of the scenario that none of them might survive.
Yeah.
And then in the trail in the end credits, the jump cut to them all just completely exhausted, leaned
It,
back,
and yeah, and
slowly eating shawarma
yeah,
as they
yeah.
try to recover from warring with an alien army.
Which and that scene was actually added much later. That was kind of a last minute scene. Like,
Hmm.
uh, if you watch the scene, like Chris Evans is sitting like this, you don't really see his face because he
Oh,
had a beard for another movie.
oops.
So, but yeah, it's. I mean,
But meanwhile,
yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of idiot doesn't know what brunch is?
I don't
It's
know.
like building a and like and the weird thing is like it's treated like that's the intelligence level of the audience. Like a Homer Simpson or a Peter Griffin not knowing about brunch.
Hmm.
I could see that.
Yeah,
Like,
but
Marge, I'm a little afraid to admit this, but I've never quite understood what brunch is. It's my
yeah,
great shame. Homie, it's okay. We'll get over this.
yeah,
Uh, but that like a character who's supposed to be he's supposed to be like smart enough to be a forensic scientist, right? That's part of his like he can go to school for that. He's just trying to get his dad out of jail and is obsessed with that, right?
right, yeah,
Uh, that is not a man who is qualified. I wouldn't want him to install a toaster oven in my house.
yeah,
I say, DV, you don't install toaster ovens. You just plug them in and put them on your counter. Exactly. I wouldn't trust a person who didn't know what brunch was, with English was his first language, to install a toaster oven.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
so it's like it didn't work in the least, and
No,
I think that was in both the Snyder and the Whedon cuts, if I recall right.
I know it was in the Whedon cut. I can't remember if it was in the Snyder.
Yeah, like a lot of people attribute a lot of stuff to the Whedon cut that turned out to be done by Snyder.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So that's the Flash.
Where we spent very little time talking about how cool the movie looked because it doesn't really look all that polished.
No, it
Eh,
doesn't. Yeah,
eh,
and
and the promise of two Ezra Millers, it's like the universe is mocking us.
yeah, yeah. It's just, ugh.
It's like, oh, what's that? You don't want any Ezra Miller? Well, you get two of them, maybe three if he's playing Reverse Flash.
Ah, jeez. Yeah, well, that's yeah. I'm curious to know where a lot of that 300 million went because it didn't go into the CGI.
Yeah. Reshoots are expensive, whether the CGI is finished or not.
Yeah, that's true. But in addition to the Flash, we also had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I am somewhat looking forward to this one.
Yes, this is probably a movie I would be willing to see in theaters.
Yes, me too. So let's get this going here. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Gamora's back. Okay.
Well, this is still fake Gamora.
Yeah,
That was one of that was one of the worst missteps in my opinion. Like
yeah,
they shouldn't have bothered to bring her back.
yeah. It kind of diminished the whole thing with her dying, because of Thanos.
Right. Well, it's like if if I don't know, if you died and then a time lost version of you from 5 years ago showed up and I just acted like you hadn't died. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of extremely disrespectful.
yeah, exactly. Now,
especially if you had died to save me,
yeah,
or if you
exactly.
had died in the process of trying and failing to save me.
Yeah, yeah. So, any idea who this is?
No, that actually that isn't War Machine. No, no way, that's War Machine. That looks all wrong.
That's not.
I couldn't quite tell from this angle with enough there's like enough CGI going on in the scene that I couldn't discount it.
Yeah, he's
Um,
kind of got the RoboCop thing going with the.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're
See.
supposed to get Adam Warlock in this movie, which, and Adam Warlock is one of those characters where, oh, he's probably this mad scientist who's experimenting on
On Rocket.
Rocket.
Okay. So we're getting a little bit of Rocket's origins.
Yeah, they touched on that in the Telltale game, uh,
Yeah.
which I need to go back and finish at some point. I got like 3 chapters in and then just stopped for whatever reason.
I'm actually kind of glad we've got this muted because I forgot that they
Oh,
play a lot of music.
yeah.
We would get slammed with a copyright claim.
Yep.
Oh, there's Adam Warlock.
Yeah. Which Adam Warlock is the most like the only things I've ever read with Adam Warlock really are
Yeah.
things where Jim Starlin is writing a Thanos comic and he likes to use him as Jesus to Thanos's Satan all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely up in the action.
Yep. A lot of creative visuals here.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed too is that Drax is usually fully clothed, probably because Batista didn't want to go through that much makeup.
That much makeup, and he might have let his bod demuscle a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah. And then
Can't,
yeah.
can't blame him.
And of course got another joke thing at the end here.
That fits Guardians better than the Flash.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
See, I think the better version might have been to have what's the Nexus? Is that no? What's the blue one's name?
Nebula.
Nebula. Thank you. Would have been to have like not have Gamora around and have Nebula be dealing with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good that they have her around because they really obviously they fleshed her out really well in Endgame. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, yeah, Gamora. I hope that I hope she isn't just like shoehorned in there.
Yeah, or that they aren't repeating the first movie too much.
Yeah,
I'll say that this is probably the only Marvel movie that I've in the next couple of years that I'm interested in seeing myself.
yeah, same here. You know, I like the first two movies, and I'd like to see where their story ends, where their journey ends. You know,
Yep. Um,
at least with James Gunn directing it. You know.
they better not kill Rocket.
Oh yeah.
Literally anybody else in the cast I'd be fine with, but not Rocket.
No, not Rocket. Well, you
Leave that
can't.
poor raccoon alone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can't kill Groot again because
Oh, I mean, you could. It wouldn't be the first time they repeated themselves, but
Yeah, that's true. But if you even want to do Baby Groot again,
we sold a lot of toys. Don't underestimate.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic for that one. So yeah,
Yep.
so yeah,
And yeah, so and then of course we also had trailers for Transformers and Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones,
yeah,
like we said, we not wasting the oxygen.
no,
Transformers, it's in the Bumblebee universe. It looks like it should be at least somewhat interesting to see that kind of approach taken to a larger cast.
yeah, and I know the character Mirage, I guess, is one of the main Transformers they focus on. I looked it up. The guy who does the voice of Mirage.
Mhm.
You watched Ted Lasso, right?
Yeah.
You know the Hispanic player, the one
Oh, yeah.
who yeah, he's the voice of Mirage.
Okay. Which is funny because he's a kind of a silent character in Ted Lasso.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but yeah, yeah, it's be an interesting movie going experience. But
Yep.
so moving on to I don't know. My transition game stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, logically, we'd be talking about Ant-Man next, but I think we just have like a little thing that isn't even going to qualify as its own video here. Hey, you know how the whole world was like, or